Hi basketball fans, welcome back to the channel. The moment the new AP poll dropped and South Carolina leapt ahead of Texas, the reaction was immediate and emotional. Fans didn't just debate it, they fought over it. Social media timelines turned into battlegrounds. Analysts split into camps. And suddenly, a ranking shift became a referendum on one person, Dawn Staley. This wasn't about 1 week of basketball. It never is when Dawn Staley is involved. This was about power, credibility, and a coach who has spent years sitting at the top of the sport while still being questioned like she hasn't earned it. Before we go any further, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment because this conversation is bigger than a poll. And by the end of this breakdown, you'll understand exactly why Dawn Staley's response mattered, and why it landed the way it did. South Carolina didn't sneak past Texas. They didn't benefit from favoritism. They didn't rise because of reputation alone. They rose because they continued doing what Dawn Staley teams have always done: win tough games, dominate defensively, and apply pressure until opponents break. Meanwhile, Texas had been riding momentum, confidence, and national praise. And when that first stumble came, the safety net disappeared. That's how elite basketball works. Rankings reward consistency under pressure, not potential, not popularity. But instead of accepting that reality, critics immediately redirected the conversation toward Dawn Staley herself. For years, there has been a strange and persistent narrative attached to her success. Despite championships, despite Final Fours, despite Olympic gold medals and generational players developed under her watch, some still argue that she can't coach adjustments or that her teams win off talent alone. That argument collapses under the slightest scrutiny. Talent without structure doesn't defend the way South Carolina does. Talent without coaching doesn't produce discipline across multiple recruiting classes. Talent without leadership doesn't survive roster turnover and still dominate. Yet those critiques continue, and the AP poll shift brought them back into the spotlight. When Dawn Staley was asked about the misconceptions surrounding her coaching, she didn't lash out. She didn't sound defensive. Instead, she responded with calm confidence, the kind that only comes from someone who knows exactly who they are and what they've built. She acknowledged that people will always have opinions. She acknowledged that criticism comes with the territory. But she also made it clear that she measures success differently. Not by noise. Not by outside approval. But by the trust of her players and the strength of her locker room. That response wasn't passive. It was powerful, because it reframed the entire debate. It reminded everyone that the people who matter most, the athletes inside the program, believe fully in the system. And that belief shows up every night on the court. South Carolina's identity under Dawn Staley has never been flashy first. It has always been physical first. Defensive first. Relentless first. This is a program that turns games into tests of endurance and focus. Opponents don't just have to score, they have to survive. That style doesn't always win popularity contests. But it wins championships. And that's why this criticism exists in the first place. Dawn Staley doesn't just win, she defines what winning looks like. Every other program is measured against her standard. Every rising contender is compared to her blueprint. And when South Carolina remains at the top, it creates discomfort. So critics look for cracks. They search for reasons. They magnify small moments. But history keeps intervening. This is not the first time Dawn Staley has been doubted. It's not the first time her team has been questioned. And it won't be the last. Yet the pattern remains the same. South Carolina absorbs the noise, tightens internally, and responds with execution. That's not coincidence. That's culture. And culture is the hardest thing to attack, because it doesn't show up in box scores, but it shows up when games get ugly. Around the country, coaches understand this. They don't debate Dawn Staley's ability. They prepare for it. They respect it. They warn their teams about it. Because they know what's coming when they face South Carolina: physicality, discipline, and a coach who will adjust until she finds the advantage. That respect doesn't come from media praise. It comes from film rooms and scouting reports. And if Dawn Staley truly couldn't coach, the locker room would reflect it. It doesn't. Players develop. Players stay. Players speak up for her publicly. That kind of loyalty can't be faked, and it can't be forced. This AP poll moment will follow South Carolina all season. Every road game will be louder. Every opponent will treat them like the measuring stick. Every loss will be magnified. Every win will be dissected. And Dawn Staley knows that's exactly where her teams are strongest. Pressure doesn't crack this program. It sharpens it. If South Carolina and Texas cross paths again, this ranking shift will be remembered. Texas will want proof. South Carolina will want affirmation. And Dawn Staley will welcome the matchup, because she has never run from expectations. The loudest critics will keep talking. They always do. But basketball isn't played on timelines or debate panels. It's played between the lines. And between the lines, Dawn Staley's teams continue to deliver. So when South Carolina leapfrogged Texas, it wasn't controversy, it was confirmation. Confirmation that defense still matters. Confirmation that consistency still matters. Confirmation that Dawn Staley is still one of the most powerful forces in women's college basketball. Now I want to hear from you. Did the AP poll get it right? Is Dawn Staley still the most disrespected elite coach in the sport? And what does this mean when March arrives? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you value real, in-depth women's basketball coverage, like this video. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Because this season is far from over, and Dawn Staley isn't done yet.